Of course, I keep starting this muted. I gotta stop doing this. This is like the third live stream in a row where I start off muted. This is embarrassing at this point. But welcome to our live stream. I'm Christophe with Cyber, and today's session is going to be a lot of fun. I think this is our like sixth or seventh security specialty study group session that we've done, and they're always a whole lot of fun. At least they're fun for me because you're doing all the work basically. I've already prepped all the work. I've already got some practice exam questions lined up for us today, and I get to watch you struggle through the questions, or maybe not. Maybe you'll fly through them today, and then I get to criticize if you got the wrong answer. So it's a lot of fun for me, and it's a lot of work for you, but hopefully this will be a useful session for everybody. So if you haven't yet attended one of our study groups before, then let me give you a quick rundown, and then we'll actually just dive right in and get started answering some actual questions. So let me switch over to sharing my screen here. And then Chris, you're going to laugh at me for this. I know Chris Whitlock is in the audience today, but I keep forgetting how to change every single time, how to move my my face from being in the bottom right corner to the top right corner. I don't know if it's just a skill issue. It probably is a skill issue, or if Restream is just not that user friendly. I'm going to go with that part, even though it probably is an actual skills issue. So I don't want to waste your time and mess with that today. I'll figure it out later, but I need to fix that. Maybe you can help me out, Chris. So we're going to be looking at just a couple of really quick slides here, but really the bulk of this live stream is going to be answering some practice exam questions. So what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to start by sharing a link to this slideshow, because on the next slide, I've got a link that takes you to the quiz itself. And then as I'm doing that, as everybody is pulling up this URL, I've got a question for you. So one sec, let me grab this real quick. Make sure it's sending out on both LinkedIn and YouTube, which is where we're streaming today. So as I'm sending out this link, as you get it pulled up, don't go ahead, just follow me on the screen here. But I've got a question for you. I'm just curious to know how many of you have already taken an AWS certified or AWS certification exam before. Like how many of you have taken that and passed it? If that's you, then drop me a comment in live chat. Let me know. And then I'm also curious for the counterpart of how many of you have not yet taken an AWS certification, and you're just kind of curious to know more about the process of getting AWS certified, and maybe you're working towards it, you just haven't taken that exam yet. Let me know. And if that's you, then let me know which certification you're thinking of starting with. Now, if you've not taken any AWS certifications, I would not recommend starting with this one. You're still welcome to join us for this session and see where you're at, but I would not start with a specialty level certification from AWS. I would instead go for something like the Cloud Practitioner or the Certified Solutions Architect, associate level, not professional level. Go for the associate first, and then you can start looking at specialty levels. But you're still welcome here. Let me know in the live chat if that's you. Okay, so if you're not able to access that link that I dropped in chat, or if you don't see it, or if there's any issues, then let me know and I'll send a direct link to the quiz when we get to that part. But you do need to be able to access that, because we do have a link to the quiz afterwards. All right, so we have somebody that took the exam and failed. Are you referring to this security specialty exam, or are you talking about just AWS certs in general? Just kind of curious. And if it was this one and you failed this one, then hopefully this study group and some of the resources I'll be sharing at the end will help you pass the next time. It's not the most difficult exam that AWS offers. It's also definitely not the easiest one either. It's kind of in between. Usually specialty exams are a little bit harder than associate. Depends on who you ask, though. Depends on your background and things like that. But they're definitely not going to be the easiest ones. So, oh, awesome. We got somebody from Paris joining us today. So welcome from Paris. Yeah, Chris talking about working on the basics first, doing the Certified Cloud Practitioner. That's a good one to start with if you're kind of nervous about AWS certifications, for sure. But on that note, if you have not yet accessed this slideshow, definitely let me know, because we're going to need you to launch the quiz. So if you head over to the next slide in here, you'll be able to click on Launch Quiz. If you can't click this, or if it's not working or whatever, let me know. I'll send you a direct link to it. But a couple things once you click on that, no, you do not have to authenticate. It shows my email here. It'll ask you if you want to log in. You don't have to. You can if you want to save your score and save your progress. If you don't, and then you refresh or whatever, you'll lose all that progress. So if you want to authenticate, go for it, but it is entirely optional. So once you've landed on here, we'll give everybody a chance to get on the same page here, and then we'll get started. But after everybody's ready, then we'll go ahead and click on next. And once you click on next, it'll land you on the first quiz question, and then I'll start a timer. We'll do about 1.5 minutes per question. Just that way you've got a little bit of heat, you've got that intensity like the real deal, but also we don't spend too much time on each question. And then after that, we'll submit the answer. And then once you've submitted the answer, I'll provide the correct answer, and then I will provide an explanation as well. I'll give a second for everybody to kind of grasp that. And then if you have any questions, ask in chat. I'd rather you ask per question than wait at the very end. So if anything comes up, then definitely let me know. If I'm not explaining very clearly, let me know that as well, and we can spend a little bit more time on that question. Is everybody good to go? Is everybody on the same page here? Are you able to see what I'm seeing? Any issues accessing this? Please let me know, because otherwise we will dive right in. Awesome. We've got somebody else joining us from India. Yeah, please introduce yourselves and let me know where you're from. If you're based in the US or in Paris or in India, I would love to know. Also, thanks for joining us, because I know it's definitely later where you guys are at. So your day's probably ending, whereas mine is just getting started. Always fun dealing with time zones. Okay, cool. I don't see anybody struggling getting to the screen, so I think we're just about ready to go. Oh, somebody asked for the link. Let me just let me share the link here real quick. All right, so I'm sharing a link to the slideshow. If you pull that up and go to the second slide, click on that button, and the button will take you straight to this. This is what it looks like. It'll have a launch quiz. Just click on that, and it'll take you to this screen right here. But let's get started. Let's not wait much longer here. Let's do this. I'm going to pull up my timer. Like I said, we're going to do 1.5 minutes. So let me set that. And I'll give everybody a heads up as we're progressing in terms of time. So if you're ready, what you'll do now is you'll click on next, and then you'll have the very first question here. So I'll shut up, I'll start the timer, and good luck. We've got about 30 seconds left, 30 seconds, so pick your answer. All right, and the time is up. So if you haven't made a selection yet, go ahead and make a selection, click on next, and then don't proceed to the next question yet. We're going to cover this one first. Because there's about a 20 to 30 second delay with the live stream, I'm going to pause here and wait a little bit, make sure that the live stream catches up with me. But go ahead and submit your answer, and then we will get started. Okay, so if you're not able to, somebody's mentioning they can't copy the link. If I don't really have an alternative way to send it here. I'll try to send in DMs and see if that helps. That might help. So let me send you a message. Come on, LinkedIn. Okay. So Pooja, I just sent you a link in DMs. Hopefully you can access there. If not, then sorry, I can't really help you right now, but you can just follow on the screen here. All right. So hopefully you answered by now. If not, go ahead and do that real quick. But the correct answer in this case is going to be this one right here. So it's looking at store the secret in AWS Secrets Manager and then retrieve it securely in your CloudFormation template using this right here. So if you're not super familiar with the way that CloudFormation works, and especially CloudFormation resolvers work, the reason that this answer here would be correct and would work is because you can actually, it's almost like a direct integration with secrets in Secrets Manager. And what I mean by that is you can do dynamic references. And there's a link here that we can pull up in the documentation. And I can also send this in chat real quick here. That way you can access this as well. But basically, you can retrieve a secret to use in another AWS CloudFormation resource by using these dynamic references here. So for example, if you were, well, we actually have that exact example in here. Let me pull that back up. So if you were to use something like this, then at runtime, it would grab the correct value and then it would inject it for the resources to be able to access this. The reason that you wouldn't use something like AWS CloudFormation init to store your secrets is because this is actually meant for resource metadata. So as an example, if you're launching an EC2 instance and you need to pass in some helper scripts, some sort of metadata for the scripts on that EC2 instance to do their job, like to install software or whatever they're trying to do, then that's what the init is meant to be used for. It is not meant to store any secret values. And so if you were to use that for secrets, then those secrets would be available in plain text. Anybody could access them if they have access to that. So that would be why you wouldn't use something like init. Now, if you're looking at something like, say, encrypting and the secret values using AWS KMS, and then using that to also decrypt the value in the CloudFormation template, well, technically, I think this would actually be possible. I'm pretty sure you could do that. I don't see why you wouldn't be able to do something like that. We're talking about a whole lot more work, a whole lot more complexity for something that's just way easier to solve another way. So probably technically possible. I've never tried it because it's overkill, but like I just said, it's just overkill. So you wouldn't really use that. Now, if we're looking at something like this, this is where it starts to get a little bit more plausible. So you probably got stuck between maybe these three questions or potential answers here. The reason that you wouldn't use something like this here, where we have resolve SSM and then the parameter name and then the version, is because this is a little bit tricky, but there's this SSM here, and then there's also an SSM-secure. If you're just using SSM, which stands for Systems Manager, so Systems Manager Parameter Store, which you can technically use to store secrets, and some people do that as well instead of using Secrets Manager because it's a lot more affordable or just maybe a little bit easier for their use case. If you try to use just SSM, this is also going to be plain text, kind of like the same issue that we had with init. Instead, you'd have to use SSM-secure. So if you did SSM-secure, then in that case, it would be an acceptable solution. But because we're only using SSM and not SSM-secure, this solution right here would also be plain text and would not be adequate for storing secrets. Now this one here, what is this one again? Let me look. Find the secret as a parameter in CloudFormation template and pass its value at stack time creation. So same problem here. First of all, we're using SSM. Second of all, we're storing the secret as a parameter, which is not going to be adequate for storing secrets. So once you knock all this down, then you get down to this answer right here. And this one would be the correct use case and the correct solution for storing and retrieving secrets that are needed by services or other resources that are being created by this CloudFormation template. Does that make sense? Any questions? Did anybody get this wrong and they're still not crystal clear on why this would be the correct answer? Let me know in live chat, and I will spend a little bit more time on trying to walk through it. If not, then we'll go ahead and proceed to the next question. Hopefully that makes sense though. All right, Pooja, I'm glad you're able to access it now. Thanks for letting me know. Weird that it wouldn't let you copy it. We've got somebody joining us from Dominican Republic. Welcome. Nice to have you. Thanks for joining us. Hey, Roy, congrats. I'd be concerned if you didn't get this one because we collaborated on a lot of these study group questions. So I'm glad you got it correct, even though that was a few years ago. So you'd probably forget some of that. Thanks for joining us today, though. I know it's a little bit later in your time zone, so nice to see you. Hope you're well. All right, do we have any questions? Was this not clear? Anything I can help clarify? Please give me that feedback now. It's very, very helpful. If not, what you can do is, if you haven't already, you can click on next. And then you'll see here, it says wait here. Don't click on next yet. As I'm waiting for questions to come in from this question, we'll go ahead and get started with the next one. So same deal here. You'll click on next here in just a second. And then we'll start the timer for 1.5 minutes, and I'll give you a 30-second warning, and then we'll go from there. So, all right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good luck. All right, we've got about 30 seconds left. And time is up. So if you haven't selected an answer yet, go ahead and do that now. Find a good stopping point, and then you'll want to click on next and wait there. And I'll give everybody a chance to catch up here with the live stream. And then I'll reveal the correct answer. So I like to do this question and repeat it throughout study group sessions that we do, because most of the times people get it wrong. And most people get this one wrong, and it's because it's tricky by design. It's a subtle difference, but it's an important difference. So I'll touch on that really quickly here. Okay, so the question is, after receiving an alert from GuardDuty Threat Detection regarding a potential threat involving an S3 bucket, you investigate using CloudTrail Lake. That's a key term right here. While reviewing the logs, you observe suspicious activity related to bucket operations, but you found no evidence, but you find no events indicating whether any objects have been accessed or modified. So what is most likely the reason for this? Potential option is CloudTrail was not configured to capture data events. The second one is no data was likely downloaded or modified by the threat actor. CloudTrail was properly configured, but did not have the right permissions through its service linked rule to access S3 events. CloudTrail Lake was not configured to capture data events, or Athena was not properly configured when it was initially set up. So nothing in this question talks about Athena at all. Athena is a service that you could use for something like this, absolutely. But in this case, we're not talking about Athena whatsoever. So that one's kind of an easy throw out. The second one that's a little bit easier to throw out would be that maybe this one here. So no data was, actually no, that one could be a little tricky. This one here would probably be the second one I would knock off, be the second one that I would knock off right away. And the reason for that is because if CloudTrail was not properly configured and did not have the right permissions for anything S3 related, then you would not be able to, let's see, it says here, you observe suspicious activity related to bucket operations, but you can't find events for any object stuff. So this would not work if you did not have any correct permissions for any S3 at all. So that brings us down to either this one, or this one. And this one is the correct answer. CloudTrail Lake was not configured to capture data events. The reason that this one is correct and this one is incorrect is because you have CloudTrail trails, and CloudTrail trails capture information, capture all of your data that you've configured it to capture. And yes, you do also have to configure data events. So that's probably why you lean towards this, right? You're like, oh, I know that if you're dealing with object level activities versus bucket level operations, then you have to enable data events, which is not enabled by default. But the reason that this is not correct, or at least not the most likely reason, this could be a reason, but the reason that it is not the most likely reason and that we're instead dealing with a CloudTrail Lake configuration issue is because we specifically talk about investigating using CloudTrail Lake. And CloudTrail Lake uses a completely different data store than CloudTrail trails. So when you're setting up and configuring CloudTrail Lake, when you want to start an investigation and you spin up CloudTrail Lake, for example, you can decide what data to ingest and what data to use. And if you don't configure CloudTrail Lake to grab those data events, then it's not going to be able to see any object level operations, but it could still see bucket level operations. It functions very similarly to CloudTrail trail. It can be a same misconfiguration, but because CloudTrail Lake uses a completely different data store, in this case, since we're asking the most likely reason, then this is probably the most likely reason. Now, if we didn't say the most likely reason, if it said pick two, then it could be this one and this one, right? This one is a potential issue as well, very, very much so, but is not the most likely reason. So the reason I like this question is because of a few reasons. First of all, it makes you really look at key terms and keywords. So we have to look at this, like here it says CloudTrail Lake, that's hint number one. Hint number two is most likely reason. You'll see a lot of verbiage like this on the AWS certification exams, all exams, but especially when you start dealing with stuff like specialty to professional level, you'll start to see a lot of this type of verbiage. You really have to pay attention to stuff like that. So that's really important. Any questions about that? Does that make sense? Do I need to clarify a little bit more? If you're not familiar, by the way, with CloudTrail Lake, maybe you've never used it for work or just never used it in general, then I would recommend going through, this is a free course that we have, so I'm not selling you anything here, but I would recommend going to our beginner's guide to AWS CloudTrail for security. This is a completely free course and you can go through and it will teach you how to use CloudTrail trails, how to enable them, and it'll also talk about stuff like working with CloudTrail Lake. So then you can start to see the difference between the data stores, how it ingests data, and stuff like that. So I'd highly recommend this course if you got tripped up on this question, and don't feel bad if you did, because usually a lot of people get this one wrong. Any questions about this before we move on to the next one? Yeah, I like that. There's a good comment that says that another way to look at this is if you limit your thought process to just CloudTrail Lake as asked in the question, then option one is automatically eliminated. And that's a very good point. That's another way to think about it. And my approach usually is to knock stuff out of the way that can't be right. So like we said before, an easy one to knock out right away is Athena. It's like, nope, definitely not this. So now I'm narrowed down to 4. probably not this one either, probably not this one either. So now I'm down to 2. And that way, even if you have to guess, it's a 50-50 chance. You can click 1, that's much higher odds than 25% or whatever you narrowed it down to. So I always try to do that. Yeah, that's true, Roy. So he mentioned in the comments, I think the fact that CloudTrail Lake is a slightly newer service may throw off some of the older SecOps devs. Very valid point and very true. So thanks for adding that. All right, cool. So let me know if you have any questions about this. If not, we will move forward to the next. Let's click on next. And then let me start the timer and we'll get going with the next one. All right, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good luck. Got 30 seconds left. Five seconds left. Go ahead and make your selection. And timer's up. So go ahead and make your selection if you haven't yet, and then we'll move on to looking at the correct answer. So here the question is, in the AWS policy evaluation flow, what happens if a resource-based policy exists but contains no allow statement for a KMS key request? Option A is the request proceeds to identity-based policy evaluation. B is the request is immediately denied with an implicit deny. C, the request is allowed if no explicit deny exists. Or D, the request waits for administrator approval. And so the correct answer here is that the request is immediately denied with an implicit deny. Now, I'll be curious to see how many of you got this one correct and not. This is a new one that I haven't done yet, but I think this might trip some people up, and rightfully so. It might have even trapped me up a little bit, or tripped me up. I can't talk all of a sudden. Tripped me up a little bit because the way that policy evaluation flows for KMS is a little bit different than many of the other AWS services, especially stuff like S3. So before I start answering or explaining this, let's first pull up the AWS policy evaluation flow. Most of you have probably seen this before, but just in case you haven't yet, this is pretty good information to have. And it did fairly recently change. I think it was back in November of last year. So let me see if I can find that graphic. Actually, it's not here. I always have a hard time finding it unless I go straight to images. So I think it's going to be this guy here. Okay, yeah, here we go. So focus mode. Bye. Okay. So I'll share a link to this if anybody's interested. I would definitely look at this and just make sure you understand it. You don't have to necessarily fully memorize it or anything like that. I would just look at the different layers and kind of how the decision flow works, right? So starting with deny evaluation, looking at RCPs, SCPs, resource-based policies, and you can see here that there's a different branch. So it asks if there's a resource-based policy, and if the answer is no, is the resource an IAM role or KMS key? And if it is yes, then the final decision is an implicit deny. So the reason that I say that KMS keys are a little bit different, if we go back to this, is because if you're dealing with, say, an S3 bucket and there is no S3 bucket policy, there is no resource-based policy at all, then it just, if the IAM user or role or service has permissions, has an identity-based policy that grants them access to that bucket and those resources, then they'll be allowed to go through. But with KMS, it's different. Even if there's an identity-based policy that allows them to use that KMS key, if the KMS key does not have an allow in there, then it's actually going to be an implicit deny. And the reason for this is because KMS keys are so important, right? So they really wanted to have that defense in depth, that dual defense approach, where you have to have an allow in both the resource-based policy as well as the identity-based policy. I think if I save this link correctly, there's also this page here that talks a little bit more detail about this. So I'll also share this link here in chat. And that way you can learn a little bit more about key policies in AWS KMS and just kind of how the policy evaluation flows. Again, this is just different than what you're probably used to with S3 bucket policies. So if you've not done a lot of work with KMS before, this might have tripped you up. Maybe you selected this one instead. But yeah, I see a lot of people got this one right. So that's good to see. Again, I wasn't sure how this one would go. It's kind of an intuitive thing too, though. It just trips you up if you've used other services. But by intuition alone, you could do stuff like remove this, right? Like this one's obviously not going to be the case. This is rarely the case in AWS. This one says the request is allowed if no explicit deny exists. Like this one might have been one that you picked, and I wouldn't blame you for doing that either. You might have also want to pick this one. But in this case, again, you could narrow it down to 3 potential issues, which is better odds than 4 potential issues. So hopefully you got it right. If not, hopefully that explains it in a little bit more detail. Let me know in the chat if I need to clarify this a little bit more or anything like that. If not, let's move on to the fourth, I believe we're on. Yeah, fourth and final question. This one's also pretty fun. So let me check, make sure if there's any questions. Hey, congrats, Chris. You got this one right. Nice job. I love how you guessed right, though. Fair enough. I'm still working on getting you to learn more AWS. We'll get there eventually, maybe a couple more years. I know you're busy with GRC stuff, though, so totally understandable. All right, let's move on to the final question. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good luck. Thirty seconds left. Five seconds. Go ahead and pick your answer. All right, and we are out of time. So let's walk through this one, and then I've got a few resources that can help if you got this one wrong. So the question is, a software company is implementing AWS Secrets Manager to manage API keys for various third-party services. They've created a custom Lambda function to handle the rotation of these API keys, and the DevOps team has set up secrets in Secrets Manager, and they configured it for automatic rotation every 30 days. However, the secret does not appear to be rotating. And when looking at CloudTrail logs, they see the following. So we've got this screenshot right here. We'll come back to that. And then after that, the team confirms that the Lambda function does exist. Okay, cool. and that the rotation code functions as expected. Interesting, because they are able to manually execute the function. So what is most likely cause of this error? See that keyword most again. Hopefully that helped a little bit. So option A is that the resource policy for the rotation function does not grant the service principal of secrets manager ... access to the Lambda invoke function permission. B is the Lambda function is in a different region than the secret in Secrets Manager. C is the Lambda function's IAM execution role lacks permission to access Secrets Manager. And then D is the Lambda function's timeout is set too low for the rotation process to complete, causing it to error out before it's able to rotate the secret. The correct answer is going to be A. The resource policy for the rotation function does not grant the service principal access to the Lambda function or invoke function permission. Why is that the case? Well, there's a few different hints here. The first one is, I'll share this link as well because this is going to be helpful. And this is an issue that I ran across personally as well, by the way. So that's why I added this in here, because I had to do a little bit of troubleshooting before I figured this one out in one of my own environments. But I'll share this link as it talks a little bit more about this in depth. Okay, with that out of the way, let's pull this up. Whoops, there we go. Let me know if you can't see this. Hopefully it is visible. I'll zoom in a little bit here. I did a little bit of highlighting. This is from one of our prior study sessions when Roy was actually helping me out with it. So Roy, this may be a trip back in time, but a few different hints I want to point out here. So first of all, let's get my highlighter. So it says that the secret does not appear to be rotating. Okay, that's kind of a given. And when looking at the CloudTrail logs, they see the following. So event name of rotation failed for source IP address of secretsmanager.amazonaws.com. So this request is originating from the Secrets Manager service. So that's hint number one. That's pretty important. Then the error message says that the error when executing Lambda, and then it's got the Lambda ARN during create secret step. And then you've got some info here, and the rest is not necessarily as helpful. Another hint is that the team did confirm that the Lambda function exists. So it exists and the rotation code functions as expected. So with that, we can right away eliminate this one right here, E. We can cross this out because it says the Lambda function's timeout is set too low, and so it causes errors. Right away from the hint at the end there, we can knock that out. The rotation code function is working perfectly fine. It's not going to be E. If we look at D, same thing there. If we're manually able to do this, then it's not going to be a region issue, because if it were a region issue, then we would have issues when we manually try to implement it as well. Again, kind of the same with B here, where it says the secrets KMS encryption key doesn't... Did I even have that one in here, actually? I don't remember if I had that one in the quiz, but that's okay. We'll go with it. So if the secrets KMS encryption key doesn't allow Secrets Manager to use it, then we'd have other problems manifesting themselves when we try to do this as well. And then the Lambda function's IAM execution role lacks permissions to access Secrets Manager. Again, I'm broken record here, but if that were the case, then the DevOps team wouldn't be able to do this manually either. They would be running into execution rule errors, and it would lack permission when they try to manually rotate it. So the reason that it's C is because, again, if we look at this error message here, we've got the solution handed to us. It says that Secrets Manager is trying to execute this function, and it's running into an error. Just to kind of visualize it a little bit more, I created this flow diagram here where it kind of walks you through the process of how this would go down. So if we've got AWS Secrets Manager, it's storing our API key. We've got AWS Lambda that's trying to trigger a rotation, or that's trying to rotate the secret, I mean. So Secrets Manager is going to start by trying to trigger that rotation. It's going to go to Lambda. Lambda is going to attempt to retrieve the secret. Secrets Manager is going to give it that secret information if it has access, and then it's going to try to rotate the secret. If it succeeds, then we're good. If not, then it'll have multiple retries. I can't remember exactly how many retries, but let's say X number of retries. If it does succeed though, then it will go from here all the way down here. It'll store that new secret, and then you'll get a confirmation. But if we look at the example resource-based policy here, and if it doesn't have the correct permissions, then this entire process would fail because Secrets Manager would not have the correct permissions for the AWS Lambda function. Therefore, the Lambda function would not be able to rotate the secret itself. So if we look at a successful and functioning resource-based policy instead, then we would just have an effect of allow for the principal of Secrets Manager, for the action of Lambda invoke function, and then for, if we want to specify that specific resource, which is always a good idea, then we can do that. I think I got this example from the AWS docs, and the AWS docs also included a string equals condition here just to prevent confused deputy. Not really relevant to this particular quiz question. I just added in here because it was in the AWS documentation. But if you're not familiar with confused deputy, that's a separate issue. I wouldn't worry about that right now, but you do need to be familiar with it for the exam as well, because you could expect some questions about that problem. But I digress. So this one's a little bit more convoluted. There's a little bit more going on behind the scenes. But the reason this question is important is because you could expect to be asked something similar on the exam, where they want to make sure that you understand how to assign permissions to different services in AWS so that they can call other services. And if that breaks anywhere in that chain, that you have the troubleshooting skills to be able to look at things like CloudTrail events in order to get to the bottom of what's causing it so that you can go ahead and solve it. Same thing with maybe you're dealing with VPC resources, maybe you're dealing with KMS key resources. How do you troubleshoot if things are not working correctly? So I'll pause here, I'll check chat, see if there's any confusion about this, any questions, anything I can clarify. Kind of went through it quickly, so I want to make sure that we spend more time on this if it was not clear enough. But hopefully the visuals here are helping with that. Thank you for sharing that confused deputy link. I'll also share it on YouTube too, so everybody can see it there. So yeah, if you have any questions about confused deputy, I've got a resource at the end of this that I'll share that's free that can also help you learn more about the confused deputy problem. Did anybody get this one correct? I'm curious. Drop that in chat. I think usually when I ask this one in live streams, we get a good mix of people that get it correct and that get it wrong. So this is a good one. Yes, Chris, code is confusing. Absolutely. Luckily, we're not dealing with direct code here, and you're not expected to know actual code in the exam, right? They're not going to ask you to look at Python code and like understand how to do Python scripting, but they do expect you to be able to read JSON policies, resource-based, identity-based, etc., and be able to understand what's going on with those for sure. No questions. Awesome. Cool. We've got a bunch of geniuses in this stream today. Awesome. Love to see it. Cool. Well, in that case, we are wrapping up here. As we finish here, I've got a couple of resources I wanted to share with you guys if you are interested in taking your learning to the next step. But before we do that, go ahead and click on next, and then you'll click on submit, and it will show you your score. That way you can see what you got right, what you got wrong. And then I did not add explanations in here. Of course, because I'm live streaming the explanations, but that way you can see which ones you got right, wrong. Feel free to screenshot this, and you can use this for your own study guide if you would like. But on that note, man, I think I closed my, oh no, cool, I didn't close it. Okay, so let's go back to our slides here really quickly because I've got some resources for you if you're interested in taking this learning and studying and continuing it beyond this study group here. So a few things. The first one is we have an entirely free AWS Security Specialty prep course. You can access it at this link. Hopefully you still have the slides. If not, then let me share that one more time for easy access. But you can click directly on these links here and it'll take you to the free course. We also we're doing live streams now on a weekly basis. In case you haven't noticed, I've been doing these for the last 2-3 weeks, and I'm going to keep doing this for as long as I possibly can on a variety of different topics like study groups, but also some practical stuff. And so if you want to see those events and register for them, then definitely click on that link. It'll take you to Luma and you can register through there. And these are going to be our 2 upcoming scheduled sessions, but I will be adding more in the near future. I did also add a premium edition add-on course for this morning. So if you've been accessing the free course, some of those resources are premium. Like if we're talking about quizzes and hands-on labs, all the video stuff is going to be free forever. But the actual quizzes, hands-on labs, some more advanced scenarios, stuff like that is accessible for Cyber Premium members. And so if you want to access this course and you're not currently a member, then I'm offering a 10% off coupon discount that you can scan this QR code for, or you can go to go.cyber.com. All you have to do is enter your email address and it'll automatically send you that discount code in your inbox. So if you want that 10% off and you're not already a member, then definitely grab this this coupon. It does expire in a couple of days on July 31st. So this is a really quick promo. If you don't sign up within the next couple of days here, unfortunately, it will not still work. So definitely take a screenshot of this or pull up this QR code or go to go.cyber.com. In fact, I'll paste this link in chat so everybody can access it. And that will give you access to not only this premium edition add-on course, but also all of our other hands-on labs, all of our other courses, so you can get that practical hands-on experience in AWS that goes beyond what the certification exam really expects you to know, so you can actually do this on the job as well. Okay, cool. That's it otherwise. If you have any questions, if you want to reach out, we've got a Discord community if you're not already part of it. It's available at cyber.com/Discord. It's free to join, so I'd love to have you there if you're not already there. And if you're already there and if you've got questions about this, then feel free to post in chat there, and I'll take a look at that afterwards. Also, if we're not already connected on LinkedIn, I know a lot of you are live streaming from LinkedIn, so we're probably connected there. But if you're on the YouTube side and you want to connect on LinkedIn, scan that QR code and let's connect. I share stuff on there every single week. And then if you're not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, then definitely find us on YouTube. You'll be able to see this replay there immediately after we're done live streaming here. So all of our live streams will have the replays available on there. And that's just a great way to get notified and see those live streams. So hopefully this session helped. I'll hang around for another like 10 minutes or so if there's questions. And if you want to engage, interact, I'll be there for that. But otherwise, thanks for attending, and I will see you at our next live stream. Thanks, Chris. I'm glad you enjoyed the live stream, man. Thanks for spending some time with us today. I know you're the king of live streams and you've got a lot of stuff going on. So thanks for joining us. Thanks everybody for taking time out of their day to study with us a little bit today too. Hopefully this was some good practice exam questions. If you want more questions because you love this kind of stuff and you want more practice, then we've got those in that course too. You can check out. We've got a bunch of quizzes in there. Did you like that vibe coding session, Chris? Yeah, no, I definitely plan on doing more vibe coding sessions related to AWS, related to scripting, infrastructure as code, and stuff like that. So I haven't yet scheduled one. I think I might do more impromptu ones with that one throughout the week. But yes, I definitely do plan on doing more live stream vibe coding and see what kind of shenanigans we can get into, what kind of stuff we can break. On that note, actually, we had I received an email from Anthropic yesterday. You may have received the same, where they just changed their limits because a lot of people were just going absolutely crazy and just consuming tokens 24/7 with Cloud Code. So they had to implement some weekly limits, unfortunately. I don't think I'm anywhere near that because I don't use it that much. I mean, I use it a decent amount, but I'm not running agents 24/7 through Cloud Code. So that I don't think that's directed at me, but we'll see. We'll see how it affects my vibe coding sessions. Hey, Sean. Yep. Thanks for joining. Appreciate the message. Glad this was helpful. Great to see you again. Been seeing you in some of our live streams, so thank you for taking the time to join us every week. Yeah, Roy, you're right. I did do a session on Confused Deputy last time. I might keep doing a few of them because I know that's something people really get tripped up on. Oh, we had a question. Sorry, I totally missed it. Could there be any situation where a Lambda rotation would be preferred, considering Secrets Manager can auto-rotate? So the Secrets Manager auto-rotate, if we pull that up really quickly so folks know what we're talking about. Oops. So I don't remember exactly when they launched this, but you do have a couple of options, right? You can either have a managed rotation or you can have that rotation by Lambda function. And this is a very valid question because most of the times managed is better. Like they actually do this behind the scenes for them. It says here managed rotation doesn't use a Lambda function. Realistically speaking, they probably do that behind the scenes. You're just not going to see it in your account environment, but that's actually probably exactly what they're doing. They're just setting it up and deploying it for you so you don't have to deal with that complexity. So usually this approach is going to be recommended. If for some reason you've been doing this for a while and you're not ready to legacy migrate over, you might still want to use a Lambda function to do that. Or if you want to add your additional flair to it, like maybe it adds a notification or maybe it does an extra step that you wouldn't be able to do through the managed function or the managed rotation, excuse me, then you'd still want to use a raw Lambda function and set it up yourself. But otherwise, great question. And the answer is I would lean towards the managed rotation for sure. Like in terms of practical use case, doing this in production, unless there's a very good reason not to, then I would lean towards the managed rotation and go through this information here for how to use it, how it works, et cetera, et cetera. Something else to keep in mind is that they'll have services that don't support this yet. So the services that are offering managed rotation are going to be things like Aurora, ECS, RDS, and Redshift. So if you need the functionality and you don't see the service listed here, then you will unfortunately still have to do this through AWS Lambda functions manually. You won't be able to use managed until they launch support for the managed as well, which who knows when they'll do that. Could be next month, could be a year, could be never. You just never really know. Great question. Hey, Gabriel, appreciate the comment. Glad you enjoyed this session. Glad it was helpful. All right, cool. I'm not seeing any more questions. So thanks for hanging out. Thanks for joining us. And yeah, I hope I'll see you at the next live stream session. Definitely check out that schedule. I think I added the link in here, but just in case, I'm not logged in, so I can't show you there, but it'll be on there as well. I also add them as events in Discord. So if you're in Discord, you can see them there. Hey folks, we've got some people joining in a little bit late here. Nice. So we had one more question I'll take here and then I'll hop off that says, what's the best learning approach to becoming an AWS Cloud Defender? The best approach is practice, 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 deploy, 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 get your hands dirty, do labs either on a platform like ours or just deploy stuff in your own accounts if you're okay with eating some of that cost. Just try stuff out, try a lot of the popular services, EC2, ECS, EKS, database services like RDS, Lambda, the Lambda service, S3, like all those major popular services. Just keep practicing with them, deploy real infrastructure, see what works, what doesn't, and just keep learning. Always be learning because AWS is always changing. So that would be my main recommendation here. So Karan's got a question of, are you planning to release more AWS content? I'm always releasing. Where you been? I've been releasing every single week, brother. If you're not part of our newsletter yet, then definitely subscribe to that. We do a monthly newsletter that shows all of our releases. And sometimes I have to trim stuff out because we release stuff all the freaking time. It's kind of ridiculous. Cool. Like I said, thanks everybody for tuning in. I'm going to hop off now. If you have any follow-up stuff, hit me up on LinkedIn or hit me up on Discord. And I will see you